do the math, but like 20 minutes times 10 is only about 200 minutes, give or take, as opposed to the 50 hours that we can spend with somebody. We can build relationship with them. We know what's going on in their
Welcome to Her Side of the Story. This is the podcast where sister friends tell their side of the story about relationships, lifestyle challenges, and triumph. Here are your hosts, Ray and Ash.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Her Side of the Story. Love lines, lifelines, and everything in between. This is season 2, episode 5, and we have a very special guest today. We're going to be talking about some really, really good topics. But first, let's get some housekeeping. I'm Ray. I'm going to turn it over to our girl, Ash, your host. And Ash, did you want to go ahead and introduce our guest?
Yes, today we have, every time we have a guest, it's special. But, you know, when Ray and I were thinking about this episode, we were like, it's May, it's Mother's Day. And we were like, we have to bring someone on who's special. A lot of our friends are pregnant, are having babies, are already mothers. So we thought we had to bring just a dynamic woman onto this platform. So today we have the pleasure of having Leah Hairston, MSSW. She is a maternal health innovator and dedicated advocate for birth equity. She is the founder and CEO of Sweet Bee Services, a pioneering reproductive health agency based in Baltimore, Maryland, that provides full spectrum support through direct care, education, and advocacy. Leah and her team deliver justice-focused, trauma-informed, and family-centered care with a mission to end maternal mortality and eliminate racial disparities in prenatal health. Beyond Sweet Bee Services, Leah is the visionary behind Selma Wellness, a postpartum wellness retreat designed to offer holistic recovery and support for new parents. She also leads tech-inclusive maternal health solutions, including an app that tracks healthcare metrics to improve births and postpartum health outcomes. Leah serves as a health equity consultant, educator, and mentor, collaborating with national organizations to train the next generation of birth workers and develop innovative community-centered solutions. As a graduate of Roland Park Country School, Howard University, and Columbia University School of Social Work, she is committed to reshaping the future of maternal health care. In her free time, Leah enjoys exploring new recipes, listening to audiobooks, taking long walks with her pup T'Challa, and creating joyful moments with her loved ones. We are so excited to have Leah on. Leah is not only a dear friend of mine, but also my RPS sister.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, an HBCU alumna like ourselves. So we're
yes.
Yeah. So we are so excited to have you on, Leah. So thank you for taking the time to be here.
Thank you for having me, both of you. I'm super excited to be here. We're so happy to have you. I'm so excited to talk about this topic. So as we alluded to, this episode will explore the maternal health crisis that Black women are facing and other women of color, and the powerful role of doulas in their play in advocacy and for safer, more respectful, and culturally competent births. Through stories, statistics, and expert insight, we highlight how these doulas are changing and reclaiming the birth experience. So why is this a conversation, you might ask? According to the CDC, Black women in the U.S. are 2.6 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women, with even more alarming rates in the states like Louisiana and Georgia. Indigenous women and Latinx women are also experiencing disproportionate, highly maternal mortality rates. These outcomes are driven by systemic racism, implicit bias in healthcare, and limited access to quality care. So, Leah, I'll jump right into my first question. Can you share a little bit about who you are, where you're based, and what inspires you to become a doula?
Absolutely. So, as Ashley so eloquently put, I am a Baltimorean and an academician. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but I'm a nerd. I'm a lifelong nerd, and I love people. And so growing up in an all-girls school essentially gave me a lot of, I think, both pride and audacity. One of our phrases was tenacity of purpose growing up at our school. And I think I really took that to heart because I believe very firmly that whatever I wanted to do, I could do. And so as I grew older, I kept hearing about injustices that women in my family were experiencing or women in my communities were experiencing, especially when it came to having children or navigating their reproductive health. And I feel like our reproductive health is such a beautiful marker of our health and well-being, and for it to be threatened is not okay to me. So I wanted to find a way to like protect women and also explore my lifelong nerdiness and figure out how to sort of intertwine the two in my career. And I'm really grateful that for my senior project, I was able to shadow my gynecologist, who was a Black woman in the DC area, which was kind of rare, even for now is rare, but was rare for the early 2000 teens. And so I was at 2010, when we graduated. So I was able to shadow her for about 2.5 weeks and like dove deep into the world of maternal fetal medicine, understanding the different specialists that people interact with, getting a better understanding of some of the challenges that people face in their fertility journey and some of the injustices that people face in having children. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to go to Howard and become a doctor. Like, that's what I'm going to do. And then I got to my pre-med classes and I was like, this is not for me because I don't enjoy it the same way that I'm enjoying understanding how to really help people from a mental and emotional standpoint. And so I ended up focusing on trauma and healing and what that looks like within community as a way to really reclaim your like Indigenous rights, essentially, and also as a way to protect your family and your community. So from that, I ended up moving back to Baltimore and I worked at House of Ruth, Maryland for a year in intimate partner violence counseling. And my second language is Spanish. So I was a bilingual crisis counselor. And I met a lot of social workers there. And I was like, oh, I thought you should be a lawyer or a doctor. I didn't really know much about social work, but I appreciated that in our field, our lens is very much justice and understanding how systems interact either to perpetuate harm or perpetuate healing. And so I decided to become a social worker and went to Columbia specifically because they had a program that connected business and social work. And so all that to say, when I got to Columbia, I met my first Black doula. And I was like, wait, you are a unicorn because I really didn't think that doulas were in our communities. I only ever saw white doulas on TV. And it still was a very taboo sort of job. It's like everyone had another career and you did this on the side. It was kind of hush hush and seemed very tangential to the healthcare system. But what I learned is that we actually are very central to the healthcare system and that our role helps people in ways that the system is not designed to do. And so for my doula training, I went and supported 8 families over 8 weeks. And I just was hooked. I was like, oh, this is what has been missing. Like, this is how you really see people protected, see people cared for, make sure that folks have the resources and support that they need and that people are asking for, but it seems very out of reach for most of us.
Yeah.
So, well, that was back in 2016 and it's almost 10 years later and I still love it.
Crazy.
That's an amazing story. Your journey through the different environments and schooling, and then you just meet a Black doula and you're like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. And it's funny how life works in that sense.
It is. It's such like a very crooked and twisted path and a just follow the divergence and you'll get to where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. You thought you were the plan and God said, look.
He said,
God
You.
Yes.
But what you do is so needed. So, you just have the ball in place with God's plan sometime.
Yeah. And Leah, you spoke about being a doula. Some of our listeners may not even know what a doula is. So could you just explain a little bit about what is a doula? Where did that word come from? I think now with millennials, it has become more of a thing where doulas have been around for centuries, right? But I think now we, especially women of color, are really exploring doula. So can you share what a doula is? What just the basic definition of what a doula is for our listeners?
Yeah. A doula is actually Greek, and doula, Doula, is a female servant. And so our role is very humble. And oftentimes there's a conversation within the community about whether we're referred to as birth workers, as doulas. I use both terms, but essentially my job is to make sure that people are educated and emotionally and physically supported during their birthing experience, during their postpartum experience, or even trying to conceive a child.
Okay. So that's something I don't think a lot of people even knew, like using a doula for conception, like working through that. Okay.
Yeah. Fertility doulas. And that's like doula because it is essentially within the birth world, but there's a broad spectrum. There are bereavement doulas, there are death doulas, there are hospice doulas, there are adoption doulas, abortion doulas. Like there's doulas for all sorts of needs. But the most common form of a doula is a birth and postpartum doula.
Okay.
And what are loving this education because
I didn't know that.
This,
No.
Insightful. I taught this in class, but I'm like, this is what should be in our sex classes.
Yes.
No, you're definitely not taught this. RPCS, if you listen in, I'm sure you're not.
Right.
You should have doula. You should have doula Leah up in there to teach classes a little something. Because they're at the age, let's be real. I mean, it's not common at our school, but yeah, you could get pregnant at that age.
And it's more than anything, you need an advocate. And I think that's what people don't always understand is that you should have somebody who can help you understand the process. Because it's not like you do this every day. And people who do it every day, it becomes mundane. It's like, okay, we're in the hospital again. It's another baby. But it's such a miraculous and sometimes traumatic experience that you need somebody by your side.
Yeah. And what are some misconceptions you would say about doulas? Like, what are some things that you've heard from people who maybe are just starting out with you as a client or who are on the fence about it? Have you heard any misconceptions about like doulas and their role?
I feel like I'm constantly debunking TikTok myths, but when it comes to doulas, a lot of times people are like, oh, so you're a doctor, you're a nurse? I'm like, no, we actually are not clinically licensed. We're not clinically trained. There are some nurses who also are doulas. And there are many times where a doula will go on to become trained to become a midwife or another type of like medical clinician. But we're not trying to replace doctors. We're not trying to replace midwives. We work in tandem with them because we have the privilege of spending more time with clients. On average, my team spends about 50 hours with a client from the time that they reach out to us to when their baby is born. And even when their baby's like around 3 months old. Most people they have about on average 14 appointments with their doctor, but those appointments are 15 to 20 minutes over the course of their pregnancy. And so, I don't know, do the math, but like 20 minutes times 10 is only about 200 minutes, give or take, as opposed to the 50 hours that we can spend with somebody. We can build relationship with them. We know what's going on in their family and their home. We know what some of their deepest concerns and anxieties might be. And we have taken the time to help them create a plan so we can mitigate those things. And we want them to also be able to trust their medical providers to go to them when there is a concern, knowing that they will respect their concerns, they will listen to their wishes, and they will make sure that they make a collaborative best choice for their care because your client is the expert in their lived experience. So a lot of times people are like, oh, you're replacing a doctor? No, never. That's not my job. My job is to work with your medical team and work with you so that you have the care that you need. Other times people might say like, oh, my partner can be my doula or my cousin can be my doula. And I'm like, that's really sweet. But unless they're trained, there's a lot that you're throwing them in the deep end to handle. And that's not a fair expectation. We have trained. I've been a doula 10 years. So it's been a lot of births. It's been a lot of hours navigating the systems that if I love my family, but if I just sent one of them into the system, it's going to really frazzle them. There's a lot of terms that are thrown around. There are a lot of potential outcomes that could happen. And so having somebody who is trained and most usually certified in that field gives you the advantage of having somebody by your side who can say, oh, if we make this decision now, here are some potential repercussions. Or have you thought about this option? Have you considered this provider or location? So that you really just get as many opportunities to make the decisions that fit you best as possible.
So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but could you tell us a little bit about what a doula support looks like physically, emotionally, and spiritually?
And I think every doula has a slightly different style. At Sweet Bee Services, like I'm really proud of the fact that we have a team of 15 doulas. And so I know there's a lot of benefits. Each doula has her own style in terms of like what foods they might want to prepare for somebody, or if they do, or if they're really more passionate about siblings or about spousal support, or maybe they've had their own birth experience and they really want to focus on people with C-sections. So the ways that we might show up or our own experiences definitely influence how we are supporting our clients. But at the very base of it, at Sweet Bee Services, we have classes for all of our clients. So we spend about 4 weeks with them going through childbirth education to make sure they understand what's a physiological birth experience, or usually what your body wants to do. What are common interventions? When do you introduce them? How do you help your partner be prepared for this? And how do we create a plan and then practice? Like, let's drive to the hospital. Let's try different positions and see how your body feels. We also offer lactation classes for people who want to navigate like breastfeeding or body feeding, and nutrition classes with the registered dietitian who's on our team to help people understand what foods are most helpful for their bodies during pregnancy or healing from postpartum. So most doulas will have either resources to or also be trained as an educator in one of these fields to make sure that people have that information. From an emotional standpoint, like I shared, we spend about 50 hours with our clients. And really that means that we're spending about 25 hours before their baby's born and or in the first couple weeks after their baby is born in their home asking questions. A good doula is ask questions most of the time and be quiet, listen, and take notes. And so we ask, like, how are you feeling about your pregnancy? Is this your first pregnancy? We have a lot of folks who have a rainbow baby or a baby after a miscarriage or loss. And so are there any feelings coming up about your experience? How are your doctor's visits going? Do you know your own birth story, which gives us some context for maybe like how big their baby might be or how long they might be in labor? We ask how their partner's feeling and ask their partner to be at the appointment so that they can also get excited about the experience, learn how to care for each other in the process, practice for contractions. And then from a mental and spiritual side, like for me, being a Christian and praying for my clients is important. That's not necessarily a thing for everyone. And I think that's why it's really necessary to have a consultation, get a vibe check, and then pick a doula that fits you and your needs. But doulas, usually we offer about a 20-minute to 30-minute consultation for free so that people can have that opportunity. And then we're always connected to additional resources. So mental health specialists, we have folks that we refer to all the time, and different community resources, whether it's in hospital or in the community, like broadly, to make sure that people have what they need.
That's amazing. That's so many resources, definitely, that are necessities when you're life planning, when you're pregnant. And sometimes I can't imagine, I've never been pregnant, but I can't imagine the feeling of overwhelm. It's new. Everything's new. And someone who has like some knowledge, who may not be an auntie or a mom, or, he's like, well, you know, this for the baby. You need to do that. So having someone who's really trained to handle and navigate, such the spousal support, like that is something that we focus sometimes so much on the mom or the person who's pregnant. And sometimes we forget about the other partner, as to what they might be feeling and experiencing. And it changes for them too. So that's really lovely to hear.
Thank you. It's very much so a transition for the whole family.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, we're going to have a baby. That means a lot. There's so many layers to that we really need to dissect and to hold space like that. I think that's a lot of where my social work training comes in, is that we're holding space for people. And even in thinking about like how this is it's an Afrocentric career and field, and that it's really about community and it's about holding the in-between for people and creating that space so they can really let out and pour out and feel fully vulnerable and open so that they can move into the next season without carrying unnecessary baggage.
Love that. Well, that brings us to actually our next question. From your perspective, what are you seeing most in your community when it comes to birth and reproductive care? Like, what are you experiencing? I know women of color, we experience a lot of things when giving birth, but you're in the trenches, you're in the battlefield. What are you seeing our community going through?
I think this question has both an answer in terms of our inherent assets and strengths and the trauma that institutional racism is throwing at us. And so I think in terms of the trauma from institutional racism, it is that honestly, the majority of our clients are double income, partnered, high earning women in leadership or entrepreneurship who have had a history of loss or had some sort of hormonal imbalance like PCOS, endometriosis, something that impacted their fertility journey. And so for them to be pregnant now, it's like, yes, I feel like finally I'm pregnant. And many times they're in their like late 30s or mid to late 30s. And so they feel like their biological clock is ticking. Wow. They've had all these pressures. They've been navigating systems for a long time to be able to be in a financially and or physically safe space. And now they're putting themselves into a physically unsafe space by now being pregnant and going to hospital systems that might not have providers who always listen to them. And so many times they're coming to us to have that extra layer of protection, which ironically, in my ideal world, nobody would need a doula. People would just be able to have one because they want one. But our clients need a doula by their side so that they know how to navigate the system. And that to me is not okay, especially when statistics show that nationally, 1 out of every 2 people leaves their birth experience in the US feeling traumatized. So we are often doing trauma mitigation, even with the best plans, even with partners who are prepared. It's just the system is inherently racist. And so it's going to inherently be against anybody who is not like a white identifying power yielding person. I will say that everybody has power. It's just that our power is not always respected. And that's part of the issue. I think from an assets and strengths perspective, which is a lot of the research that I do, as well as like what I get to experience within our communities, is that we have inherent support systems. And so we have grandparents, we have aunties and uncles, we have cousins, we got the neighbor down the street who are usually like a part of our experience because they're just a part of our world. But we also get the privilege of including them in our birthing process, maybe not in the hospital room, but as soon as that baby comes out, everybody's like, I'm here. Let me hold this baby. Let me help you out. What's going on? And so a lot of what we get to do is to encourage our clients to rely on their community because we've been taught to be very individualistic and to handle it yourself. It's meant to be like strong Black woman syndrome or superwoman anyway, or in any way, shape, or form. And so I really encourage them, like, take off the cape, please, and don't ever put it back on because you can't keep going through this next phase of your life as a parent, whether you've experienced loss or whether you are like caring for a little baby. You can't do that by yourself. And so reminding people to go back to traditional practices like calling on a friend to hold your child so you could take a shower, or asking your coworkers to create a meal train so that for the next 6 weeks, you're not worried about breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Being able to tap into therapeutic support if that's something that you know you need, or even having it in your back pocket. It's like, maybe I didn't need it before, but it's a big transition and I deserve the help as I'm moving through it. And I have one client who's now a dear friend who, when I was supporting them in postpartum, she had 3 or 4 different postpartum care folks. And she ended up having a total of 4 doulas over the duration of her pregnancy and postpartum. Yeah. And I was like, this is really fascinating. Normally people ask for one doula. She's like, no. I'm not suffering anymore. I don't deserve to suffer. I deserve good things. I said, you know what? You're real right. No, they should all have this motto. I deserve good things is not just for tangible items that we can purchase. It's also for services. It's also for the lifestyle that we want to have for ourselves and the model that we're showing for our children. And so I think there's a lot of beauty in being a mother or a birthing parent who is not rushed and flustered all the time because you have the community support. You have the either finances or the human resources to make sure that you are creating a community that cares for you.
I was going to say, Leah, this was so profound because as a 30-something-year-old woman with no children, looking to have children now, probably in my mid to late 30s, God willing, you have that superwoman cape on, like you said, like you figure that you're going to have to do everything by yourself, but at least knowing that you have the opportunity to have a doula, at least you'll have that support while you're pregnant and after enduring the birthing process. I guess it's a little scary thinking about childbirth in your 30s. At least like the world makes it seem super, super scary. So having someone who can advocate for you and give you the science or the details or the love that you need to feel okay during that process, I think is so important. So thank you for sharing that. It really, really touched me.
You're not alone, right? No, you're not alone. And it can feel really isolating too, because it's like you got to go to these appointments and people tell you, oh, you're getting old. Biological clock is ticking. You know, your egg count is that you don't know all that. First off, rebuke. I'm always like, if it's not positive and if it's not true, let it go. Yeah. But secondly, it's like, well, what do you feel like God has called you to? Has he told you that this is something that you can have and have it abundantly and have it full of joy and peace and tranquility and peace, but to also be a space that is protected. Like we don't have to just be out here and be vulnerable. And everything happens when it's supposed to. So I think we as women in our 30s are actually in a really great space in this world, despite the politics, because we are in a time and age and a state that is proactively finding ways to make sure that women who are past their teens and 20s can still have healthy reproductive experiences, can still navigate those decisions from a place of empowerment and not just like, oh, sorry, we're going to check you off, or we don't have anything for you, or we're going to take away your rights. So I say all that to say, I hope you would be encouraged because there are a lot of resources and opportunities for you. And I also firmly believe like when God says so, it'll be so, even if people say,
yeah, that's so beautiful. I really try to lean into that type of understanding as well. Like when it's time, it'll be time, and you have to think in abundance that your baby gonna be just fine and make it through. So,
my oldest client was 47. So like,
wow.
Yes. And that was her third baby. So I was like,
wow, good for her.
Right.
I love that.
Well, you kind of alluded to this a little bit, but can you share a little bit about the historical context behind why there's so much mistrust for the healthcare system, especially for Black women and women of color?
Absolutely. The field of gynecology, which is like the study of women's reproductive organs, was like formalized in the US, but with barbaric and torturous experiments on 5 enslaved Black women. And so from the torturous experiments on those women, the doctor at the time, I'm not going to say his name, people can look him up if they want to. I'd rather say their names. And so in his experiments, he began to write textbooks that codified the field of gynecology, and his work delineated Black women as female because they were closer to animals and white women as women because they were humans. Yes, actually. And let me tell you, for all the schooling that I've had, I did not learn this until the end of my tenure at Howard University. I graduated in 2014. So I'm like, I've been studying all sorts of stuff about reproductive justice for years. And it took till 2014 for me to even find out how this got started and why the textbooks as late as 2019 and 2023 had language that said that Black people don't experience pain the same way, or had language that delineated us as closer to animals or any person of color. And so that was the foundation of the field. And from there, it's not like it has been formally acknowledged to the point of being ripped out of the field. Is almost like when you plant crops and you have a weed that just kind of keeps coming intertwined with everything. And so we have to be able to like parsing it out when we are having conversations and when people are having experiences. But that requires a lot of intentionality that if somebody has not worked on their own personal biases and judgments against other folks, that we might not address. And so the way I've seen that in real life is that I have clients who like might be young presenting, who may be shorter in stature, who may have non-visible disabilities or different abilities. And so the ways that they are talked to or talked down to, the way that they're laying in a bed and someone's standing over them is a power dynamic, the way that people dismiss them if they don't see a wedding ring, the way that people dismiss them if they don't realize that their child is not half Black and could be mixed race baby. It's really drastic. And even for myself, when I walk into a space, I had locks for many years. And so I would get looks because I had my locks, like, who is this girl with this young face? And what are you doing here in some leggings? So I started wearing scrubs, to be very honest. And my whole team wears scrubs when we go in the hospital. We have scrubs with our emblem on them and Team Doula so that we can like break down a barrier, but that also puts extra weight on us to break down barriers to make sure that our clients don't have to feel that interaction. Which, like going back to being advocate, part of what doulas do and part of our work is physically exhausting because we are being like a human shield and taking a lot emotionally and spiritually in that space to protect our clients. So I say all that to say, that's how the field got started. That's how we're seeing it even today. And people used to ask me like, well, what about if you have money? I'm like, it doesn't matter if you have money because money does not protect you from racism. Serena Williams had to advocate for herself, and she is the top athlete, like
Yes, in the world.
in the world, and has all the financial resources and told them point blank period, I have a blood clotting disorder. You need to check me and I need my medication, and was ignored.
Yeah.
Beyonce had experiences. Like the list goes on and on and on of women who are Black women, very highly visible, famous women who also have abundant financial resources and still faced concerns. And so I often tell people finances should not be the reason you can't have a doula, especially now that doulas are covered by Medicaid. And many of us are part of other insurance panels or working towards that. So stay tuned. We are at Sweet Bee Services, we're Medicaid approved. And I train doulas to become Medicaid approved so that we can expand that workforce. But it shouldn't just be that you like qualify for the care of a doula when we know that the system is inherently dangerous. So there are individuals who are making it safer, and we applaud them in their places. I'm like, yes, go there. They're great. They're fantastic. We're building relationships with different hospitals and federally qualified healthcare centers. But we also need to not be naive in going into spaces and experiences that are not in places that were designed to protect us.
This is a viral question, so I'm going to jump into it because you brought it up, Medicaid. So can you talk a little bit about how someone can pay for a doula from the top on down? So people who just pay out of pocket because they have it, and those who may need Medicaid.
So yeah, if you have the finances, and that's why I tell people like research your doulas, figure out who's in your area, Google people. That's how you find us. Ask your friends, because we got a lot of our clients by word of mouth, and ask them about their experience. People can pay out of pocket, and most of us will have a payment plan option or sliding scale options. Also, if you like pay in bulk, you can get a discount depending on who you're working with. And then we do offer Medicaid reimbursement. So that means that all of your services will be covered, and we will bill Medicaid directly, and you don't have to worry about the cost. We also offer, I know people are like, oh, for real? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, find us on Google, Sweet Bee Services consultation.
Some states are offering that now. So that is Maryland. We're lucky.
Maryland is one of them. State, New Jersey, New York.
Yeah, that was actually one of our questions. So good plug right now, Ray, and to talk about this.
Oh, excellent.
It's great to know that.
And even that honestly has been opening the door for us to be on private insurance panels and making sure that private payers can get their insurance to cover it. It's a longer conversation. We're still working on it and lobbying for it. But we do also offer super bills. And so depending on somebody's particular insurance provider and plan, we can offer a super bill for the services that we have covered, and they should be able to get some form of reimbursement. Also at Sweet Bee Services, we accept HSA and FSA cards. So if people have been using that as a way to cover insurance costs, then we can accept those and they'll be fully covered.
Beautiful. That's very helpful.
Yeah. So what I heard is people have options. And I love even that sliding scale, therapists and some doctors, they use sliding scales, but it's really beneficial because you're able to pay at your visits and important to your income. So
that's amazing. One thing, Leah, like Ray has said, this has been such a wealth of information. And your example of saying how doulas are almost like a human shield for their client against the world, really, during this process. How do you find yourself as a doula? Because like you said, there's a lot of emotional, physical, all the things going on and tolls that can be put on the client. How do you deal with that as the doula? Because that's a lot to put on yourself, and to navigate, especially, I don't know, but please correct me. Do you usually as yourself, do you take on more than one client at a time, or do you only do one client at a time? So I'm sure that's a lot to take on.
Yeah, it is.
So how do you find yourself like taking a moment and kind of being able to be the best self for your client?
When I was a young client, a young doula, I was very eager. I was like, we gotta save everybody. We gotta that's why I did 8 births in 8 weeks. I tell everybody, I tell all my students and mentees, please don't do that. That's not sustainable. It is not necessary. I was like staying over in the hospital with clients. Like I was pouring out a lot.
Yeah.
Partially because I hadn't fully developed my understanding of what boundaries needed to look like for me. And so in teaching how to be a doula, like 2 of my keywords are always intuition and boundaries. And so I have learned that my boundary is, because of the style in which I want to be a doula, I love to cook. So I'm like gonna cook a postpartum meal, and I'm gonna be there and hold your babies, and I'm gonna make sure, like, my friends like, can I call you? Like, come on.
I know exactly who to call.
Let me go over to Auntie Leah.
Right. I'm like, I'm Auntie Leah. So just come on. Let me come into this bosom. Let me give you a hug. How are we doing?
And I love hugs. I can feel it already.
And I'm like, that's how I show my love. And so being a doula is both my career, but it's also my lifelong calling. And so to do it well, I have to do it in seasons. And so there are seasons where I try not to take any more than 3 clients at a time now, because I also have, all of my team members, I'm also doulaing. So making sure that I have capacity to love on them and care for them and be attuned to their needs, as well as to the business, as well as to all the other aspects. And in my own personal life, like, we have to balance it. So I tell people often that I have rituals for my care, meaning like I love coffee. So every morning I like wake up, have my coffee, have my quiet time. Cheers. Okay. It's a given. Like, that's it. I start my day. And so I have to do that because I need to download from Jesus. I also need that like space to clear my mind. And then when I'm with my clients, I like to make sure that we have consistent like meetings, checking in. How are you doing? What's going on? I take my notes, and then I need to like woosah from that. And usually it's not our one-on-one meetings that are the most draining for me. It's being in the hospital space. And ironically, like home births, I love home births. Like, they're physically exhausting because they can be long. There's a lot going on, but people are comfortable and you can feel the difference. Like, they're on their toilet, they're in their bed. It's a very like, one of my goddaughters just turned 4 yesterday, and she was a home birth baby. And her mom was able to like walk around the house and get in her bathtub and get in her bed when she delivered her, and like eat sushi, then go sit in her own bathroom. And so she felt more grounded in her birthing process. And we all felt that as we were supporting her. There have been times in the hospital where there's too many unpredictable factors. We don't know which provider is going to be there. We don't know what room we're going to be in. We don't know what time they're going to take us back to the room. We don't like all these I don't knows. And so we work as doulas to help calm our clients' anxiety, massage their feet and ankles, make sure that they're drinking, make sure that they're eating, make sure that they understand the different questions that are being asked of them. And that is just a lot of your brain being on and focused. And so once I leave a birth space, I need like a physical shower because it's just been a long time. I need to sleep. And I often will sleep for about 8 to 10 hours after a birth, just because you've been on your feet, you've been crouching, all these things. Try to get a massage afterwards too, because there's lots of funky positions we hold to make sure that other people are comfortable. And then we're right back into being attuned to what they need for at least 2 to 6 weeks. And so I like to make sure that in that time frame, I'm checking in with them, and that I have scheduled like my therapist appointment, time with my friends and family, making sure that I'm eating well and moving my body so that I can then be present for them.
Love that. Here at Her Side of the Story, we love self-care. Yeah. That is a very check. We approve. It is very approved self-care routine after a birth. So good for you. So and any doulas listening, please definitely take heed to that, because we need y'all just as much as y'all need us. And we want you guys too to be in your best, be your best selves. And you do so much for us others. So it's so great to know what you're doing for yourself. We have a lot of viewers who probably this is maybe their first time hearing about a doula at this length. I know for me it is. I know who the doula was, but never even, I could have a doula for conception. I could have a doula after. I could have a doula for lactate. Like, I didn't know all of these things. So where can someone, other than someone who's not in Baltimore, Maryland, looking for Sweet Bee services, but where someone else, some of our listeners who do not live in Maryland, what are some resources where they can find doulas in their community? And what are some questions maybe to ask, like to your doula and you are aligned? Could you share some of those with us?
Absolutely. So actually on our website, we have a blog under our story tab. It'll be in our menu, but we have a list, I think it's like 16 questions that we recommend people ask to doulas or potential doulas. So plug there, go read our blog. We have lots of great resources about how to pick a doula, what you should know during your pregnancy, feeding your baby, what you should eat, how you should move, all that stuff. But I typically ask people or tell people to ask about the doula's experience and not necessarily in the number of years, because there are quite a few doulas who are in process of being certified, but are already parents themselves or already experienced the pregnancy. And I have never had a child. So I think became a doula, like, I just really care about people. I want to help y'all. And I know my first clients were like, girl, I was 22 at the time. I looked like I was a baby up in here. Literally. Who was like maybe trying to tell me how to have a baby. But how to have a baby. I was good at it. I knew what I was talking about. I knew how to sell myself too. I was like, I know I look young, but I know what I'm talking about. Let's dig into these questions. And so making sure that there's also that level of confidence. And if your doula is not confident and kind, it's probably not going to be a good fit, because they need to know how to be assertive in certain spaces and protect your wishes while also hanging back and not say anything unless necessary. And that's really just my style. I tell people, like, I'm a mama bear. Unless you disturb the cubs, you really don't got to worry about me. But as soon as you do, it's a problem. And I'm from Baltimore, and we'll figure it out. I'm also Caribbean, so like, don't mess with that. The Latinos will come out, and it's going to be a problem. So ask people that sort of question. Get a vibe for their personality. Is this somebody that you could sit with for 30 hours? Are you going to be annoyed? Are you going to be frustrated? They're trying to touch you. Can you communicate well with them? Like, these are all really important things. For folks who are looking for doulas outside of Maryland, so Sweet Bee Services, we provide support throughout the state of Maryland, DC, and Northern Virginia. But if you are outside Baltimore and the DMV, then I highly recommend the National Black Doula Association. I'm one of the founding members, and we have a directory across the country of doulas all over. And so there are individual doulas, or doulas are part of an agency or practice like we have. But that's a great way to figure out who might be in your area and to get started. Also, as much as I'm always debunking TikTok myths, TikTok and Instagram are a great way to find a doula. And so I tell people, just do a little research, ask folks who they've used and what their experience has been. There are a lot of Facebook groups too. So folks who are looking for different resources as a new parent, they could definitely look there. And more, we are partnering with community-based organizations and like health clinics and hospitals. So you can also ask your provider, like, let them know, hey, I'm looking for a doula. Is there anyone who's worked with your office that you would recommend? Some people will give you a great answer. Some people might not, but it's a starting point and you can go from there. If somebody does live in a maternal care or maternity care desert, which is basically an area where there's limited OBGYN access or doula access, reach out for virtual support. We have a virtual package for clients as well. And it started even before the pandemic, so we're really good at it. And so that's another great way to maybe get a provider that you like, even if they're not directly in your area, and to prepare you for your experience.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you can really just get and find a doula almost anywhere outside of the desert. It might be a little hard, but also telehealth is so important for those rural areas. So this is super exciting. I had a quick sidebar question. Do you travel?
I do.
I just had this.
It's like, it's ready, like,
let's try to get Leah to.
I'm really interviewing. I'm like, I need her for myself. Yes, let me know. Switch gears a little bit about like advocacy. So how can our listeners, how can people on the Hill or folks that are really compassionate about maternal health, how can they get involved, would you say?
We need everybody to protect birthing people, because I like when I give presentations or pitches, I'm like, who here knows a mom? Everybody's going to raise your hand because you were born from somebody, or you might potentially give birth to somebody, or you're caring for somebody who was born. And so if we don't look out for birthing people and babies, that is physically the demise of our well-being, because then there's not more generations coming into place. So any policy that is meant to protect the right to have a child and choose how to raise that child and or care for that child needs to be protected. I also tell people you can do something so simple as like stopping and asking a new parent that you might see, how are you doing? Can I offer to help you? And if it's going to be creepy, like don't be creepy, but try to find a way. Like if you see somebody struggling, offer to push the cart or tell them they're doing a great job. That alone, especially like when people are on the plane, it's like, oh, that baby's crying.
Yes.
They're doing a great job because you don't know the sleepless nights they've been having. If that baby might have like an ear infection, this is their first flight. There's a lot of nervousness and judgment that goes towards especially new parents that we as a society can do a much better job supporting them and caring for them by just giving them a couple accolades, just saying they're doing a great job. When it comes to like making sure that people have access to doulas and to other healthcare providers, we are lobbying right now for a livable wage because the Medicaid reimbursable rate is only about $1,600. And that's if you do all of the services. I know. It's if you do all of the services, which comes out to just about $16 an hour, which would be fair if it didn't consider that birth is reimbursed at a flat rate of $800, although that is the longest, most grueling process. And so even if you're there for a birth experience that's 3 days, you're only getting paid $800. Yeah. That's not sustainable because you also have to feed yourself. You have to leave your family behind. You have to worry about getting there and getting back. And so there are states like Washington and New Jersey that are lobbying for at least $3,000 or $3,500 because that's honestly the baseline of what it costs to be able to offer this service and to care for families well. And that's for birth and postpartum. So it's not like we just drop you off at one and we're gone, but there's a continuity of care that is available when you have a doula that we don't often give to families. And part of my work even now is really advocating for postpartum support and making sure that once people have a baby, we don't just drop them off. We don't like take them off either Medicaid or any other health insurance plan that they have. We don't just leave them alone because those 6 weeks are crucial for their physical and emotional and spiritual well-being. And that's often where we see maternal mortality rates are very high in the first week and then in the first year after people have a baby. And we're just like, okay, bye, we'll see you. It goes back to that community that I was saying is like, we really need to wrap around new parents and babies to make sure that they have what they need from a non-judgmental space and from I'm just here to be what you need.
So, you care for the babies and the mom and postpartum. Is it hard leaving your babies after the postpartum 6 weeks? How is that for you?
Who you are.
Yeah.
So it's going to be hard regardless because your body biologically is like, I just spent all this time building a little human and I need to protect them with everything in me. And I have some moms who are like, yes, it was very hard, but I found a balance. There are other moms who are like, whew, I didn't realize how much I needed to get back to going to work. Like this routine is good for me. So I think it's important to know yourself. If I had my druthers, like everybody would have 2 years at home.
Yeah, Lord.
Have 2 years of covered, paid support. Your job is stable. You could come back to it. Because it takes 2 years for you to readjust. So if you're leaving at 6 weeks, I know people who've left at 2 weeks because they didn't have the financial resources. I'm like, my job is going to literally fire me, or I just started and I don't have the capacity. I don't have enough, like vacation time. But their body is like still bleeding. They're still trying to figure out their lactation and breastfeeding journey. They're still trying to navigate sleep with that little one. And then their hormones have to reset. So there's just a lot of factors that if we gave people the appropriate amount of time and the appropriate amount of resources, like in other countries where they do not have a 10 times deadlier rate of maternal mortality, like Finland and Iceland, I think have some of the maybe one person a year. And that would be because of the bleeding journey.
Yes.
Why do we have it that the USA is 10 times more deadly for new parents? It should not be the case. We have the same resources financially. We spend $4.9 trillion on healthcare in this country annually. And yet we're dying at that rate. And it's unacceptable. So get off my little soapbox, but yes.
And I know we spoke a lot about Sweet Bee services, but you also have Selma. So yes. So overall, where can our listeners find information about both services?
Yeah.
There might be some mothers who or parents who have finished giving birth, but still need support. And also this may be thinking outside the box, but do you offer services to same-sex partners, like people who maybe have adopted or use a surrogate. Okay. So good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. We actually have surrogate families. We've had adoptive families, beautiful. And we have same-sex families.
Oh, beautiful.
I'm like, that's why I say birthing parents, because I like people to understand just because you give birth or choose to have a child does not mean that you identify as a mom. And so I really want to respect anybody who has a uterus, who uses that uterus to have their child. That's usually our clients. But we do have families in our community who have chosen not to use their own uterus for a child, or who don't have a uterus and still want to have a child as part of their family. I'm like, yeah, what can we do to support you? In terms of finding us, we are on all the socials at Sweet Bee Services. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube. We're not very active on TikTok yet, but we're going to get there. And we are also, I'm a millennial. We're also online. You can find us at www.sweetbeedoula. It's SweetBeeDoula.com. And we're sweet like honey and bees. And so people can find us there. And Salama is our newest experience. Salama means safety in Swahili. And so we're on a mission to make postpartum safe. And we're starting with pop-up experiences near hospitals in the Maryland region so that families who have just had a baby, even if that baby is in the NICU or they experienced a loss, can come and receive 24/7 care from a dedicated team of professionals to help them navigate their first days of postpartum and set them up for successful parenthood.
I love that because, that's kind of trending and that's becoming a thing. You don't know where to find that service where you can get full 24-hour care for as many days as you like after the baby's born. That's the life I want to live.
Amen.
Yes. I didn't help the whole time.
I started this work because I learned of the statistic, and I'm one of 4 children. I have 3 sisters. And I was like, I don't do the math. One of us should not die, or 3 out of 4 of us should not have any sort of complications. I don't like that. And so I was like, well, how can I stop it? And honestly, that's been my life's mission ever since, not just for birth, but also for postpartum. Like we deserve better, and I'm going to make sure that happens as best as I can.
Well, thank you for all the work you and your team are doing. It is so needed. And I've already said I need a night nurse. I ain't even have the child yet. I'm not pregnant, but I know I need it. I know I will, because, I like my sleep, and I don't think I can. It's funny because I was talking to Jill and I was like, am I selfish? Because I don't know if I could wake up. Like I could, after having birth, I don't know what my body will do, but I don't know if I could get up to like care for this child. I was like, I know that sounds crazy. And she was like, no, it doesn't. She was like, everyone experiences things differently. And she was like, no, it's not. You don't sound crazy. She's like, that's why they're there. They're there to help.
Exactly.
So don't worry.
And biologically, your body will wake up, but also shouldn't always have to wake up. Like that's why you have people.
Yeah, that's what we need for people.
Yes.
So thank you so much for all that you do and all the information. And I'm not going to forget, because I always forget, we always end with a favorite item or something. It doesn't have to be an item, but just something we're loving this month. So if you need time to think about it, that's okay. I'll start because I'm actually ready.
Go ahead.
And what I have been loving this month is my Kiehl's UV screen serum. I love it. It is a SPF, but it's in a serum form, which apparently is better for people who are pigmented, having it actually serum form. Yes.
For better penetration.
Yes. And I love it. And you can buy it anywhere that Kiehl's is sold. You can buy it online. I find that it does what it needs to do. That's one of the things I'm loving. And I haven't shared a show in a while lately, but a show that I am currently loving, I'm still watching it because it's still ongoing, is on Apple TV, Your Neighbor and Friends. It is very good. I really, really enjoy it. It's one of those shows where you're like, how is this going to end? Because every episode is just like, it gets more and more wild. So check it out if you need something to it's an easy watch, funny, witty kind of watch. So those are my two things.
I love it.
Leah, did you have yours or you want me to go?
I think, well, if we're going to stick in the like item and show vein, honestly, green dress. I have really been loving this pop of green. Green has been my color for right now. And it's
we're in sync. Me too.
Yeah, she just said that last week.
Season. Green.
It was beautiful.
Earth, money, abundance, spring. Well, I'm just like, yes, things are alive again. And I was definitely in a like wearing black all winter phase, which I do every winter. It's like, yep, hibernate. So I think now I've been like coming back out of into my color schemes. And I really love dresses. Like we grew up at an all-girls school where we wear skirts all the time. And I think as a revolt, I was like, put on the pants. I'm wearing jeans. There's something about a dress I actually really enjoy. And so yeah, it's been fun to come into that. In terms of TV shows, I usually am not like a big binger, but I started watching The Equalizer on Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
And I really like that Queen Latifah is the star. I just have appreciation for her. She's like a kick-ass, badass. She's protecting people. And I really appreciate also the dynamic of her and her teenage daughter and how they're navigating that for her being a mom and like a single mom, but her aunt lives with them. And it's just really beautiful to watch. So it's one of those shows that I don't have to pay deep attention to, but it does have the action thriller, sort of like great family drama that I want to watch. And so I've been enjoying that.
So I love Equalizer. I was late to Equalizer as well, like just started watching it. And I was like, I heard about it, but I was like, why am I so late? It's so good. And it's very realistic. Like she is like a secret agent, but the dynamics of the home, like is not uncommon to have an aunt that helps raise your child with you. And, it touches on topic like divorce and like you said, the teenage daughter growing up is coming into her own. So I really like that show too. So I'll stay on trend. You give an item or a service and a show. So I'm really liking my InnerTune app. It's an app for affirmations and soft sounds and things like that. I use it primarily for affirmations. You can record your own affirmations and then put some soft music on the background and then play them. I try to play them in the morning, like stack it with like brushing my teeth or washing my face or walking a dog. And you get to the point where it's just repeating, and you get to learn. Y'all don't judge me. I have like 100 affirmations and like I can probably recite them because I play them every day. So I really love that app for the opportunity to give you your own affirmations and you can record it and it's your voice. I don't know if I like that part so much, but hey. And then I'm watching $1 Million Secret on Netflix. Well, all this like yes, for all the people who like psychological type game shows. This one's a little bougie, of course, because they're trying to be $1 million and they're living in this big, nice mansion and swimming in this Olympic-sized pool. So, I mean, I love it. And if they have another season, I'm going to try to get on the show. But that's what I'm watching right now. It's really trivial. It shows you how people can be deceptive or they can play the likable character, what people gravitate towards. So it's just very mysterious. So those are my two things I'm loving for the week, for the month, I should say.
I love it.
Those are great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Like, this has been so powerful. I can't wait to play this back and get my little gems. But before we go, did you have any closing message for our listeners and for birthing people?
Well, I do want to say thank y'all both so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
It's our pleasure.
Truly, same here. I was like, I could talk about this all day. So all the better to talk about it on her side of the story. I think I always want to leave a message of hope for people. And although the statistics seem scary, at Sweet Bee Services, we have 100% survival rate. So over the last 9 years, we've never lost a client. And I have to say, there are ways to protect yourself and you do not have to be a statistic. So making sure that you take advantage of the opportunity to make informed decisions, getting the right people on your side, and finding what is the best fit for you. You can fight the statistics and you don't have to fall into them. You don't have to fall into despair. Like, there is hope. So I think that's what I want to leave with people.
What a beautiful message. And that is such a beautiful way to end this episode of Her Side of the Story. Also wishing everyone this month of May just a prosperous May, a blessed May, a happy May, and happy Mother's Day to everyone who celebrates out there. We appreciate all that y'all do every day, even when we're not looking and knowing. So happy Mother's Day. But thank you so much, Leah, for being on. And thank you for our listeners to joining us for another episode of Her Side of the Story. We'll see you in June.
Yes, next month. It's Ashley's birthday month.
It's my birthday month. So we're going to do something fun. And then July is Ray Ray's month. And we will be in Chicago. We'll be doing a live episode. So we're excited.
Yes. All right. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
If you enjoy listening to the podcast, follow us on social media at Her Side of the Story RA. And don't forget to rate the podcast and subscribe. Thank you. See you next time.